Growth is everywhere. New homes, the ports, tourism, and the Savannah College of Art and Design. Growth costs residents in higher property taxes, higher rents, and higher sales tax. Isn't it time for growth to pay its fair share?
I appreciate our tourism community. I appreciate our hoteliers.
The cities in Fulton County recently completed their agreement, and they have received, or the municipalities in Fulton County will receive 95%. 95%.
As you spoke about this morning, Mr. Mayor, we have to get loss done. But you did state a comparison this morning to our sisters and brothers in Atlanta and Fulton County about how those negotiations netted in a 4.99%. And just in the last few hours, reading off of the Fulton County government website, their loss negotiations are resulting in a gradual change to 12% share at the Fulton County government. Right. So, it seems folly that we would be able.
Savannah needs additional tourism. Savannah needs additional tourism.
I appreciate our tourism community. I appreciate our hoteliers in particular.
The following show and broadcast is a production of Better Savannah, an independent expenditure committee dedicated to better policy outcomes at the state and local level. The views, opinions, and statements made by the hosts and/or their guests do not necessarily reflect the views of Better Savannah.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah. Hey, man.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah. Oh, it's another day in paradise, man. It's John and Chuck. We're back for what will be our last show of the year. It's Thursday, December 29th, and this is episode 106 of the Better Savannah podcast, John. 106 episodes in. It's the end of the year, buddy.
Amazing. Yep. It's been a interesting 12 months.
Tell us about it.
Well, I don't know. Trying to find our way post-COVID. I'm so tired of people telling me the reason I had to double my prices is supply chain problems. I think the volume of corporate greed is astounding. But, it's capitalism. What can I tell you? Any excuse will do. Hey, Betty Jones, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks
You
for
are
joining
so
us tonight, Dr. Jones. So tonight we're gonna kind of go through 10 of the biggest moments or issues so far of the year. At the beginning of this year, John, when we rewind the clock back 12 months, we were coming off some really tough and close elections in Port Wentworth and Garden City and on Tybee Island.
right.
We definitely took some losses out there, but it was kind of strange, and we made some inquiries, and so our number 10, top 10 item of the year, it's got to be the Tybee Island, voter roll investigations, I would call it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So our viewers can have a thumbnail of what we're talking about here. There's a tremendous number of people who registered to vote at Tybee just to vote against 3 progressive candidates that were on the ballot. And we believe that the STVR industry encouraged STVR owners to change their voter registration to Tybee Island. And a lot of people just don't understand the law. It wasn't malicious, but they were not following the law. They weren't trying to break the law, but by registering at your second home, which is not your permanent residence, is not allowable. So after that election, we got a list of all the 1,300 people that voted, and we started going through the list, and we found a couple hundred, which some of those elections were decided by 35 votes. And within that group of a couple hundred, clearly there were 30, 40, 50, 60 people that were just listening to their STVR management company or their realtor or fellow STVR owners, and they moved their registration from Wilmington Island out to Tybee Island. They live on Wilmington Island, have
Or from another state,
or
to
from another
Tybee Island.
county,
Yeah.
another state. So through your contact in Atlanta, which was righteous, and it's tragic that he passed away.
Yeah.
Back in August.
Mr. Calloway.
Yeah, he took this to heart and assigned it to an investigator out of the Macon investigator's office for the Secretary of State. And Glenn Archie is the investigator's name, and he is about to conclude his investigation and make his referrals to the Attorney General. And then from there, once it's blessed by the legal side of the state, it'll go to the state elections board for charges. Anyway.
So just up on, for those of you who are listening to this as a podcast, on our screen right now, is this one of a series of articles around end of March, beginning of April. Just, the Chatham County Board of Registrars is who hears challenges to the voter status of anybody. And so over the past year, about every month you're seeing anywhere from 10 to 20, challenges coming out of Tybee as they seek to, kind of clean up their voter rolls as the eye of Atlanta is on them. And so, what we see is just, every month, Colin McRae, the chairman of the board of registrars, having to, um, do some,
Administ-
version, administrative action against a group of voters that have been brought forward.
yeah. Well, it's first and foremost the clerk of Tybee Council responsibility, Chuck. She is the designated
Right.
legal election supervisor, and the voter roll integrity and quality falls squarely on Janet Leviner's shoulders. And I don't know if the woman is overworked or not. This isn't something she enjoys doing, but um, until this investigation got rolling, we started out with a voter list of almost 3,500 people in a community that only has about 2,500 18 and older residents. So that's a pretty big spread. So
Yeah, I mean, just a quick pull quote from Colin McRae. I can say generally that both the quality and quantity of evidence in support of Tybee challenges this go around were more persuasive. There's been some back and forth. He's upheld some, he's turned down some others. So there's kind of been this is the city clerk Jan Levener. You know, there's obviously been a marked effort to answer your question, Joanne. Joanne, it's the same thing of like, how can, things that go on in the city of Savannah be allowed? They're allowed because we allow them. I mean, it's not really been highlighted before. So it's a newer issue, but, we're hoping that in 2023, this might be something to watch for.
yeah,
John, some closing thoughts about number 10 on our list,
well
the
let,
Tybee
let's
Island
let's just be
voter
let's
rolls.
let's be completely upfront with this. There's a Tybee election in 2023. So if that voter list gets cleaned up and in in context, have the requisite number of people that really ought to be voting, and get the people that have vacation homes that only spend a month or a week or 2 months of the year out there, get those voters off the list, Tybee Island might have a better shot at a new city council through their elections. So it's really important. And we'll, I'm sure, be returning to this subject once that report is issued and the Attorney General's office has reviewed it and it goes to the elections board for the state.
All right, Robert. Good evening, Aaron. Thanks for the compliment on the recap we did last year. I did actually go back and listen to our episode from last year. I think it's like episode like 70 or something, maybe 78. Talking about the top 10 for a new year. But number 9 on our list, John. I'm just gonna in general call this Roy Minter. Okay. Um, Former police chief Roy Minter, and this is very, 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 great timing. Just as we're getting ready to come on air here tonight, you know, we've got breaking news that interim police chief Lenny Gunther has been tapped by city manager Jay Melder to be the permanent police chief of Savannah Police. Um, this has been a long road to get here. This is a big one. Number 9, Roy Minter. Go ahead with some thoughts before I break in,
Well,
John.
okay. The job that Lenny Gunther has ahead of him is immense, and it's immense because Van Johnson, Dietrich, Linda, Curtis, and Nick uh, followed Van Johnson's uh, instructions, and that was to protect at all costs Roy Minter. Why? I don't know. But there were members of council early on, in 2000 and late 2000, early 2001, when all the police shootings were happening, Chuck, and we were having, daily gunfire and victims.
We'll talk more about some of the specifics of that in a minute on another one of these.
My point is that the people who today on council are waving their pom poms over this hire, number one, have nothing to do with the hire. I mean, check the wiring diagram. They only hire 3 people.
That's right. They don't hire the police chief. They don't hire the
Nope,
police chief.
they don't.
Mhm.
That's the city
They don't hire
manager's
the-
job.
yeah.
But I just find it interesting that the people who left the hen house door open and the fox came in and ate all the freaking chickens is now saying, "Oh, we got a new chicken and we hired him." And aren't we great, exceptional leaders? You know, it's just tiring critiquing this council because it is just more of the same televangelistic communication and aluminum to go cups and caroling with council. I, I mean, it's a lot. Let's put it that way.
I think others have covered this. Rachel Flora, Aaron Clarkson, the Savannah for Savannah First Timer blog. The vacancies under the tenure of Roy Minter. I don't think we ever really averaged less than 100 vacancies during his term, and probably averaged something closer to 140 vacancies during the majority of his term.
Yeah,
and to just put this in perspective, this is a police department whose budget and staffing levels, as we've discussed on this show, John, are based solely on the city's 155,000 population, right?
Agreed.
So we've got 600 to some odd police officers budgeted total, right? But that doesn't even take into account the number of tourists, the number of students, the number of military personnel, the number of homeless.
Yeah, there's
that we
20
have in
to
this community.
30,000 people, Chuck, on average a day here that are visitors and tourists mixed together. Then you have
Minimum.
12,000 SCAD students that aren't registered to vote here. They're not captured in the census. Then you've got 3, 4, 5,000 homeless. I mean, the number is all over the place. The point of this is conservatively, this is a service district of 205, 210,000 people, and we're
Minimum.
staffing and budgeting for a community of 155,000. And then
not only are we staffing, but we're not even meeting that staffing level. So
agreed.
when you hear 120 vacancies, that's 120 vacancies off of a number that's already,
Yeah, you could add 100 to the vacancy number, meaning the officers that should be budgeted and hired. So you're really talking about over 200 missing officers at any point in time.
So in the spring, as these officer-involved shootings increase, that we'll talk about in a minute, these the general amount of crime increasing, and the amount of data and physical evidence from the department, the surveys, the HR exit interviews, all of these various pieces of items. There was a healthy effort beginning in March, April, May for this community to demand that we let him go. And one of the things we had kind of honorable mention to the top 10 kind of issues of the year was just the amount of travel this mayor does. Our mayor, Van Johnson, probably spends, at least, 2 to 3 weeks out of the month, every month, traveling somewhere. And a lot of it's to DC. And we saw, that pay off, so to speak, at least from their perspective, maybe, when in May, the Biden administration announced that Chief Minter would be nominated to the Senate for confirmation as a U.S. Marshal for the Southern District of Georgia for this judicial circuit. That confirmation has yet to be voted on. It's a great question, Dr. Jones. Has he been hired as a marshal? No.
No.
That has not been voted on.
Yeah.
So
Chuck, can we bring it? Can we play the Miss Wilkes shootout?
let me pull it up.
I think it would be a good time to illustrate for our audience exactly what's going on in our lovely city, in the heart of the historic district, in front of
This is
Mrs.
courtesy
Wilkes.
of WTOC.
And this was in October?
October 13th.
Yeah, got it right.
Let everybody know what this is, John.
Okay, this is a WTOC story that's going to include some Ring uh, doorbell cam footage of the actual shootout. The man leading out the vehicle in front of Miss Wilkes, driving 30, 40 miles an hour down Jones Street, firing at an automobile behind him.
So this is after he's been nominated. I think he's just with the mayor here.
I think they might have been in Germany when this happened, actually, Chuck. Minter and Johnson were away in Germany on a State Department junket.
Excuse me. Yeah. All right. Let's watch this.
Fired outside of a popular restaurant in downtown Savannah. Take a look. I'm going to slow it down for you. I'm going to show it down for you now so that you can see this again. Across the street, you can see people lining up outside of Mrs. Wilkes' dining room on West Jones Street. Take a look at that white SUV. It passed the restaurant there. You can see a passenger hanging outside of the window of the vehicle. He appears to be pointing a gun. The people waiting outside the restaurant duck for cover. Moments later, you can see that black car drive down the street. Savannah police say officers tried to locate the vehicles, but they have not been able to find them. No arrests have been made at this time. If you know anything, please call the Savannah Police Department right away.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and let's definitely explain to people that 30 people in front of Miss Wilkes, how many of them have cell phones? Probably 29 of them. And they all called 911, instantaneously. And it was 15 minutes before an officer arrived on the scene. That's not public safety done well. That is a shorthanded department robbing Peter to pay Paul and cover their beats. And while they were in Germany on a State Department junket, we had a old style Western shootout in front of 30 customers waiting to be served at Miss Wilkes.
Well, it's just, I wish Chief Gunther the best. I congratulate him in, being promoted, especially
I like the guy.
as up the ranks as he worked his way. I think he's been here more than 2 decades. That's a long time. And big shoes to fill. All right.
Yeah. I just wish there was some contrition from council that I guess it's too much to expect them to say, you know what, we should have done this a long time ago. That's all. What's next?
All right, number 8, the Weeping Time lawsuit. And the only reason this really isn't higher is because there's still no resolution.
Correct.
But a year ago, we had the Weeping Time Coalition filed suit against the city, the Housing Authority, the Salvation Army. That case has worked its way through to Judge Lisa Colbert, and there have been several hearings. But tell us a little bit more while I pull up some stuff.
Okay. First, for those that I think everybody knows by now, but in case you don't, the Weeping Time site is out on Augusta Avenue in Bernadette Lanier's first district. And
Bernetta Lanier.
Lanier, forgive me. And this is the site in 1860 where the largest number of slaves were sold at one event that lasted 2 days. 430 souls were put on the auction block to pay the gambling debt of a white local plantation owner. Um, in, as as dire a history as that is, it is our history. It is critical that it be preserved. It is uh, an, a subject that the city council refuses to do anything about, which blows my mind. Um, I was equally surprised that Historic Savannah Foundation declined the Weeping Times Coalition's request to support the preservation, not give money, not do anything other than to give a statement that we think the Weeping Time is a important historic site in the city of Savannah that needs to be preserved. So this thing is wrought with funky local politics and egos, and some nefarious collusion between the Housing Authority of Savannah and HUD. Erlene Davis is part of that story. Leonard Small and the coalition, which is growing by leaps and bounds. It's just such an obvious solution, and that is, if we can use our power and authority and eminent domain and do the Rockingham Farms deal in literally 2.5 weeks, or rush to complete $165 million arena. Why can't we do the right thing for this important piece of history? So, anyway, what do you got?
It's just Leonard Small's, Pastor Small, after one of the latest hearings.
We asked for dismissals, and once we ask for the dismissal, they ask for the dismissals, and then we make arguments as to why the case should not be dismissed. The judge heard those arguments. I was very pleased with her patience, and even one of the respondents was not asking for dismissal. They were simply asking for more discovery, and wanted to dispose the Weeping Time Coalition, which means they're going to dispose, which means they're going to
come to talk to you. They want to talk to you.
They're going to depose me. Okay, so they did ask for a deposition order before, and we simply don't want to do a series of depositions. So we'll try to arrange for all of the parties to ask me questions at the same time.
I see. Okay.
So just to give you an idea, there's 3 separate defendants: the Housing Authority, the city, and the Salvation Army. There's 3 separate teams of lawyers on their side, 1 on ours, and the case is likely to take a significant more time. So it's one of those things that it's both a big item that continues to be a pressing issue in this community for those of us who support the preservation for posterity of that land, but it's going to continue to be a legal issue and an election year issue.
It shouldn't be, Chuck. It shouldn't be. But this is a council that half of their agenda is considering a liquor license and ribbon cutting and proclamation giving and all this celebratory quasi-official recognition duties. And here they've got the largest site of the sale of slaves, of human beings in the history of the United States, right on Augusta Avenue, and they won't address it. I mean, talk about dysfunctional, distraction, and egocentric gumming up of something that ought to be super simple. And it extends so far as the Historic Savannah Foundation has been co-opted and are saying, oh, we can't make a statement that it needs to be preserved. What the fuck's the matter with you? Read your mission statement. they also, now have a member on the Tourism Advisory Council. Anyway, don't get me started. What's next?
Number 7, officer-involved shootings.
All right, you tell me about them.
Well, ironically, connecting back here, the officer-involved shootings was a real big issue, really up until the moment Roy Minter resigned. It seemed for some reason or another, I'm not saying they're correlated or causated, obviously, but Roy Minter resigned, and then the number of officer-involved shootings went to basically zero for the remainder of the year. The first half of the year, between December of 2021 and June of this year, there were 6 or 8 officer-involved shootings, 6 or 7 officer-involved shootings in 7 months. One every single month, right? And it really kind of culminated, I believe, in the killing of West Savannah resident Saudi Lee. Okay, and let me get this pulled up here.
Yeah, well, didn't they look into the guy who shot him, the officer? And
we'll get to it. We're gonna get to it. All right, so this is just Greg Coy, WJCL. Let me make sure you guys can hear this.
Yeah, shout outs to WJCL and Greg. They're doing a great job.
One of the better ones.
Yep.
Before shopping on Amazon again.
We got to get you an account that blocks those ads.
You guys.
Into the Savannah police shooting death of Saudi Lee moves forward. Lee was chased and he was shot last May by Officer Ernest Ferguson. I've learned that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has finished its report of the incident. A local organization pushing for police accountability tells me they want to see that report, but they're going to have to wait. Saudi Lee is the 4th person shot and killed by the Savannah police this year. Lee had a permit to carry a weapon and shown a holster to Officer Ernest Ferguson before the Georgia Bureau of Investigation says Ferguson chased and shot him to death. According to this email I got from the GBI, it finished its investigation of the June 24th shooting. The GBI report now handed over to the Chatham County District Attorney's Office.
I'm happy to hear that they have finished the report and that we are moving forward because we're not going to stop until we receive justice for Mr. Lee.
Candace Brewer is with the Racial Justice Network, an organization pushing for police accountability and transparency.
We want to see any type of evidence that they have, any type of dash cam video, any body cameras. We want to see that, and we want this officer charged and indicted and convicted.
All right, so some nice shots of all the key players involved there. Most of the cases early on in the year, John, were kind of easily processed through the GBI and the Chatham County District Attorney's Office. There was one on Waldberg that was highly questionable, that no charges were stemmed from. But this one of Mr. Lee is sitting in the DA's office still. It doesn't look great. And just to update everybody with this on the screen here, this officer, Mr. Ferguson, Ernest Ferguson, was fired at the end of October. Okay. For an unrelated incident to the officer-involved shooting investigation. He got a DUI in Hinesville, I think.
Yeah, he did.
But this guy also had a really checkered past at the previous correctional facility he was working in. And this was just kind of very reflective of the Roy Minter era.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
The Roy Minter era, excessively understaffed, a bunch of rookies in the department, and you get people like this, who end up shooting and killing one of our citizens, Saudi Lee. You know, lot of pressure on Shalina Cook Jones. Wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah. Well, look at this guy should never have been hired. Why did he get hired? Because the entire time Minter was chief, we never could fill our ranks. The pay was too low, the morale was too low. It was a function of bad leadership, and while lots of people were saying, "Man, what's it going to take to get rid of this guy?" Van Johnson hung on to him and protected him. I don't know why. I don't care why, but he has to own the fact that he was, globetrotting with Minter as a State Department guest of Van Johnson's, while Rome was burning, type thing. And now I'm glad Lenny Gunter's permanent. I think he's going to do great. But the same people that protected Minter are trying to take credit for this permanent position to Gunter. So
just as a footnote, a second honorable mention to this top 10 list, the first one being Van's ridiculous travel schedule, I think ought to just be the mounting pressure at the DA's office. And I'll throw in the Quentin Simon case as just enigmatic of that. I think the high national profile of that case, along with these officer-involved shooting cases, and her strong effort in reducing the backlog. I mean, the backlog ballooned to 31,000 cases. It's now down back to around 25,000 criminal backlog cases at the DA's office. But surely that's got to be an honorable mention in this list, Sean. Okay.
Well, absolutely, Chuck. And I'm going to
go ahead,
make a comment, and it's going to preempt something coming up. But Shalina Cook Jones, for how long has she been asking for additional funding?
Every single budget cycle.
Exactly, and to my knowledge, she hasn't really gotten what she asked for. Right? Chester has said no. Well, now that Lost is resolved, and now that the county is going to receive, tens of millions of more dollars, I don't like how they're positioning Shalina Cook to be the fall girl for all of our
for Chester Ellis's problems and Van Johnson's problems.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't, they've got the money now. They can't say we don't have the money. That was the old excuse. We don't have the money. Well, I'm sorry, but public safety, and this holds true for the city of Savannah, you need 725 officers. You really do, because that's your service population.
Minimum.
So think of it in Shalina Cook Jones context. Yeah, she does have 20 or 25,000 cases. She needs more funding. So you can't condemn her and fault her and blame her and deflect to her when you're not supporting her. And the mayor is jumping on that bandwagon in a big way, saying, "Oh, I tried to love her. I've given her all my love that I can give, but Van's got no more love for Shalina."
Right. I think something we'll come back to in 2023.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 6, one of our favorites. Gosh, this has just been something we return to over and over and over again. Number 6, the Broughton Street fiasco. Love this drone footage from your son, and you also cut this little ad I debuted at the beginning of our show. John, 2.5 years in.
Yeah.
Since before COVID, basically.
Hey, they started this when they took office, Chuck.
I think recently my favorite Broughton Street thing was the lighting of the Christmas tree. I was down there, and all of council is down there. There's probably like close to 1,000 people on Broughton Street.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more even. And it was kind of rainy and wet and damp, and everyone's just on the grass, the dirt. The idea that this project is anywhere close to being done, to being completed, to being not being of the necessity to be constantly monitored and fixed every single day anytime soon, it's ridiculous. If you go there today, you listen to cars traveling down the open Broughton Street.
Yeah.
They put single brick pavers in parts of Broughton. You hear the cars roll over them. It sounds like they're all going to break at any given moment. The curved edges surrounding these planter boxes.
Yeah, I get
so bad. Cars are just getting wrecked. People parking horribly. It's just
the pervious pavers are okay, Chuck.
Not if you don't fill them in with sand.
Well, there is some sand in there. It's
not enough.
Help our stormwater issues. The volume will be reduced because of the absorption. There's plenty to fault in that project, right down to the fact that the artist illustrations and plans that the merchants were shown on the new light poles had 3 globes. 1, 2, 3. Go look what they got. They cheaped out. Somebody didn't check the order. I don't know. They got 1 globe. Okay. So every corner was cut. The thing got protracted. Businesses have closed up and gone out of business. And I know that one member of council, Keisha Gibson Carter, is trying to work with the city manager to get on the next agenda a very simple program to help offset some of the inconvenience and impacts of this project gone bad. And I hope she's successful. We'll report on that later. But somebody's trying and recognizing the issue. Keisha's saying, man, we made your life a living hell for 1.5 years longer than it should have been. I know that cost you. I know your regular customers left and they may not come back. So we're going to offer you some parting gifts to offset for that. And I think that is the right thing to do. Unlike taking responsibility for holding on to Minter for too long. The whole problem with the majority on council, Van's group, is they don't accept responsibility for their errors. They want 120% credit for everything that's good, and half of that stuff they didn't really have anything to do with. But they can't even acknowledge, when there's a glitch and a problem, which would boost their credibility and make them seem much more
kind of like number 5 here, our next one. Okay.
Okay.
Number 5, the because of the Broughton Street stuff, and then the decision to decamp the homeless camp under Truman Parkway. Let's just listen to this. This is in October, a couple months ago. Courtesy WTOC.
Under the Truman Parkway in Savannah. Our Tyler Mannion was inside that camp as we have been in the past. Why is that, Tyler?
Yeah, you weren't able to get in there today, correct?
Yeah, Mike and Don, that's right. We've been in this camp in the past, but today, a different story. Now, that's because the city didn't allow us in there. They say it was a public safety concern, as they had a dozen police vehicles out there, and you can see what it looked like before these evictions happened today. Our past video shows the conditions around 40 people were living in under the Truman Parkway for decades. All those folks evicted today at 1 p.m.
We're trying to give everyone who lives out here as much dignity as possible in this process.
Recent development in the area draws a stark contrast to the camp nearby, as luxury apartments continue to be built just across this canal. I asked the city if that development played any role in the people experiencing homelessness being forced out. This was their response.
It's not safe for folks to live under the Truman Parkway, and it's time to go ahead and get folks relocated into a place that is safe.
So
yeah, that's pretty.
That's Nick Zoller, communications guru at the city of Savannah, WTOC. Not the least biased reporters in town. But you and I attended series of meetings this year.
Which ones?
Different. You went to the Downtown Neighborhood Association meeting. I've been to other community meetings, and something we've heard about is this influx of homeless into downtown Savannah, right?
Yeah.
And this influx is,
what did you think was going to happen?
It was primarily in October after this clearing of the Truman. Now, this clearing happened after a fire was set off, uncontrolled by, residents who were living under there, one or the other, whatever you want to believe. And so this now became framed as a safety issue. But this is the same council majority led by 3rd District Alderwoman Linda Wilder Bryan, who, have no problem over the last 10, 20 years regularly filming themselves for social media, showing themselves going down there, putting support, food, utilities. They put a potable water tank down there, so yeah. I'm not making any aspersions on any of these policies. I'm just trying to show the inconsistency, like the hypocritical nature of these politicians who will use these people for gain in one sense, and then use it for gain on the backs of them in another.
Yeah. Let me help you out here. For the last 3 years, we were inundated with Linda Wilder Bryan being a humanitarian and telling us, watch God be God and go care for these people. That is good work, Chuck. That was heartfelt.
Watch God be a warehouse, right?
Yeah. The problem in my view is when they're all evicted simultaneously, not in parts, but universally bounced out. Where's Linda Bryan? Nowhere. She's got nothing to say. Now, I'll tell you from my travels out west and what I've observed and a little bit of anecdotal conversation on the streets of Portland or San Francisco or San Jose, the preferred action is to create zones, limited and strategically put, where the homeless population, because the numbers are so great, you can set up here and you will not be harassed, you will not be evicted. This is a okay zone. We should have done that. Obviously, we didn't want them under the Truman for, I guess, structural reasons in case another fire scorched the concrete, which did happen in Atlanta a number of years ago. So I get that. That was not the right spot for them. Plus, all the new hotels that are going across from Savannah River Landing and the luxury townhouses, the poor people and the bougie it's not a good look. So I understand the aesthetics of that. So the city should have, and if they would have kept Cindy Kelly and people who get it on the Homeless Authority Board and not Julian Miller, the city would have identified some area that was an approved zone that was an alternative to the Truman. So they didn't have the stigma of the poor people next to the $1 million listings and the homeless and struggling with mental illness and addictions and all the problems that they have had a place to go to. They didn't do that, Chuck. They didn't do that. So let me review. We hold on to Minter way past the shelf date, right? While we decimate the police department. Linda Wilder Bryan, bless her heart, goes down there and brings them, McDonald's and waters and restrooms, but when that implodes, she's nowhere to be found, which to me is incomplete leadership.
But you know where she is to be found? She is to be found commandeering, police assets, to settle civil disputes.
About to raise some hell up in here. Money. And so, yeah, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call everybody. And y'all can call it what y'all want to call it. I'm sorry.
Only reason why I call it, it's not petty, because people complain about the store all the time.
Yes, ma'am.
They give people tainted stuff, but if they could do me like that, they do everybody like that. I'm going nowhere. I want my money. I'm about to have a community project on this corner right here. I'm about to call all my friends and do some lifestyle stuff, because that's what they do. I just want my receipts back.
Okay. Hold on, let me go find out.
And tell them I want my food that I paid for back too. I'm up there raising hell about my money. This raggedy song stuff that they give people all the time and won't give a refund with receipts.
Just put it on the floor in there. Y'all stick around here till she leave.
Boy, I don't know if that's ever going to get old, man. Those of you who live in East Savannah, that's your alderman.
Up. Yeah, that's your alderman. Tying up 3 officers, a supervising sergeant and 2 patrol guys, to get you a refund for the seafood you didn't like because you couldn't resolve it with your
absolutely
on your own. So Linda Wilder Bryan is wrong for the third. Let me just put it that way.
All right, number 4. I'm just gonna lump these together. Property taxes and lost. So over the summer, John, we had first off, you had the Chatham County Board of Commissioners, rolled their millage rate back by 1 mil. And after the second year in a row of a large fight, we had the city of Savannah decide not to roll its millage rate all the way back, but do a partial
backdoor tax. Yep.
Right. Another backdoor tax here. And I spoke at the millage rate hearing back in July. And I just said, it just doesn't seem like this would hold the entire year, given that, we have these loss negotiations coming up. And over the summer, when the digest got set and the millage rates got set, it really seemed to set this course of the second half of the year. So if you figured the first half of the year was primarily about Minter, the police department, those things, the second half of this year really shifted towards taxation. So just some thoughts about the city of Savannah raising property taxes for the second year in a row.
My thoughts? Yeah, my thought is, well, let me back up and say that they've been in office 3 years, and only in their first year because of Bernetta, Alicia, and Keisha insistence did we get a full rollback. Last year and this year, they spun it. First, they tried to get the delegation to amend the Taxpayer Bill of Rights in Atlanta so they didn't have to hold meetings and they could just keep the extra and not roll back. That was as underhanded as Gordon Matthews trying to change the charter with Ron Stevens. I mean, these guys are purposeful and sneaky as shit. So yeah, I think trying to spin this. I don't know if they have a media consultant or what, but how many times have you heard this is the lowest millage rate since 1987? I mean, it's almost a trope, right? So they don't tell you that the digest, went up 22%, and everybody that doesn't have a Stevens Day status on their property, owner occupied, everybody else, whether you own apartments or own a business, you don't care that much about the rollback. The fact is you're paying 20-30% more property tax, and your elected officials are saying we lowered your property taxes. So I think they're in a world of hurt because people aren't stupid. They have to write a check for those property taxes in November, and those that have their property taxes paid monthly as part of their mortgage and put it into an escrow account, sure as hell get a mortgage analysis at the end of the year, and it says, "Oh, yeah, we paid your taxes, and it drains your account, and we had to kick in $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Guess what? Your payment is going up $1,200 a month to cover the taxes."
This, John, in a year, as Keisha Gibson Carter, notes in this article from Will Peebles on the Savannah Morning News that I have up on the screen, all the context of SCAD still paying nothing. SCAD still pays nothing. And all we get from this mayor is that there are, quote, courageous conversations happening.
Well, Chuck, we, just pausing for a moment on the top 10 list here. If there's anything that the citizens and the voters of Savannah and Chatham County need to understand now, after this year's budget and the T-SPLOST failure, growth.
We're getting to it.
Well, I'll hold on to it, but hey, don't believe for a minute that growth is good. Growth that is managed is good. We have a city council that refuses to manage growth. They want to be buddy best friends with the builders and developers. They're afraid of SCAD. They're afraid of the port, and it's just much easier to get in line behind Van Johnson and sell whatever he's selling, and you're left with no voice of your own, and you're going to have to defend yourself this year, 2023, in some election cycles here.
I'm looking for something. Hang on.
It'd be a good time to play that new.
Let me play that the growth piece.
Yeah, the growth piece. And let me tell everybody, this is going to be our centerpiece, workhorse spot for first quarter.
But I think you're gonna have to adjust the audio. People will tell us in the comments. I think the audio is a little loud.
Growth is everywhere. New homes, the ports, tourism, and the Savannah College of Art and Design. Growth costs residents in higher property taxes, higher rents, and higher sales tax. Isn't it time for growth to pay its fair share?
Yeah, that's easily done, Chuck, and that's good that we previewed it just once or twice tonight and can adjust for that, no problem. So the moral of that story is all all this construction that's going on, it's costing you. It's coming out of your hide, your higher taxes, and don't believe that it's all good, because unmanaged runaway growth is nothing but an added expense to the existing residents of the city of Savannah.
I just want to dissect this quote from the Will Peoples article on the higher taxes. Melder said this passage of this rate would allow the city to increase starting pay as well as offer signing and retention bonuses for police and fire services, for which he and the majority of council believes will make Savannah more competitive in recruitment. Starting pay would increase to 50 grand from 44 and 48 from 44 for firefighters, respectively. I just want to point out, the point is not that that policy shouldn't be in place. Yeah, we do need to be more competitive, but we spend that whatever dollar amount it took to bridge that pay increase. We spend in general funds on capital projects every year, minimum. Probably 10 times that dollar amount, right? So the point we keep making is that there are opportunities for monies like impact fees, like SCAD, like the ports, like the hotel motel tax with the tourism industry, that should be renegotiated in our favor so that we don't have to be coming back to the property taxpayers. Go ahead, John.
Look at the day they took office, they needed to hire another 75 or 100 police officers. I mean, not to fill the vacancies. I mean, to add on to what they were budgeted for, because of the tourism, the homeless, and the SCAD populations that all expect and demand service, whether it's the 911 call center, whether it's patrol cars, whether it's ambulances, whether it's stolen bicycles, muggings, what have you. They didn't do it. They didn't do it because Minter didn't want to do it, and they protected Minter. So they've got to accept responsibility for this. Now, last year, 2021 and 2020, if you combine the new building permits, Chuck, that were applied for and issued for the city of Savannah new construction, it's $1.2 billion in 20 and 21. We're going to get the numbers for 22 for this year, but I better give them a week or so to close out their books and get the numbers to us. The point is, despite what Estella Shabazz says, which is utter nonsense about her constituents not in favor of impact fees, her constituents are paying for that growth whether they realize it or not.
Right.
Those officers could have been hired by the additional revenue from impact fees or from pilot programs,
offsetting funds we continue to expend from the general fund. That's always the point of these policies, 100%.
Well, they're busy with aluminum cups, ribbon cutting, and trying to take credit for stuff they didn't do when they ought to be acting on their own independent best instincts and fulfilling their campaign promises and commitments, which were impact fees, more public safety emphasis, and pilot fees at some point in time with SCAD and the port. So,
just moving on with the theme of taxes, the lost negotiations, which I just, I'll point out, I called back in June and July. I said, this is going to end up being a down to the wire issue. And, as I wrote a mere 45 days ago, in this opinion piece for the Savannian, again, shouts out to them for publishing this, the local option sales tax is the second largest source of revenue for the city of Savannah and the second or third largest revenue for the county.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, for the last 10 years, we have been an exorbitant expense on the county M&O budget for criminal justice because the city of Savannah has not fielded an appropriate level of police staffing. We've had horrible leadership. It's just been a shit show. And so the county, rightfully so, was in a position to ask for more. But of course, we had Chester Ellis start this negotiation with kind of asking for half a
Yeah,
ridiculous.
just asinine ask. And Van's starting point was equally stupid. He wanted to reduce by what, 6%, 7%, 23 to 15.
Right.
I mean, this is the best we can do for leadership. I don't think
Right.
so.
And this, this culminated with the city, Mayor Van Johnson, the city mayors, shutting down the entirety of Wright Square, a square, I will remark, that has a 5-year ongoing federal courthouse project on it, and limited number of parking to begin with. And they took over all these county parking spaces. And then, somebody placed a bozo the clown in the front window of the county legislative building.
Yeah, we can do better than this, Chuck.
It was a shit show of leadership, of failure from Van and Chester, Chairman Chester Ellis, and Mayor Van Johnson. Clearly.
Yep.
All right.
What do you got?
Go ahead. I'm getting ready for I can keep going on this one because Lost, Lost was, like, to me, the biggest failure of leadership test for both of these men.
Well, I think I want to make
does not predict stability. Go ahead.
I want to make a distinction, Chuck. We have not gone all over the map on issues. We have been very disciplined and focused on creating new revenue where it doesn't exist for the city of Savannah. You would think that, we would be applauded for trying to keep property taxes down by finding alternative major streams of revenue that aren't property tax based, be it impact fees or pilot fees. So I want to make the distinction that the people who you've elected know that we are right. They know that the policy specifics that we're advocating will make a significant difference. The problem is that they don't want to cross the major donors to their campaigns and the intelligentsia, aristocracy, oligarchical component of this town, which is just a couple hundred people. Come on, you guys, quit being told what.
That's funny. That's funny, Matt. Matt says, get the Van man to create a task force to work on saving taxpayer money instead of spending it. Yeah. Exactly. 20 some odd task forces in. All right, number 3, John. SCAD pilot and impact fees deferred yet again. A dream deferred again.
Well, yeah. We're going to stick to the things that we know and believe in, and we're going to be certain that these subjects are addressed in this round of city elections in 2023. They will not escape answering and debating these ideas. That's their responsibility. We maintain that they're not stupid. They have purposely lost their voice to find a way forward, which is the Van way. There's only one way, and it's the Van way. And Curtis, Linda, Dietrich, and Nick have all lined up behind Van. So Van knows that these ideas are good ideas. He just refuses to sell them and adopt them and to advocate for them. So that is a failure of leadership. I understand, he has a gazillion followers, and God forbid he sets loose the fan club on you. But we still have a moral responsibility to do what we're doing, and we continue to do it. So, when we get to the T-Splosh subject, we do have some influence, and we'll exert that influence to whatever effect it may produce.
Well, as we heard from Mayor Pro Tem Estelle Shabazz in the workshop in December, I don't think they're going to pass it. They're supposed to take it up in January. Impact fees, we may actually see a vote on it, but I'm just not sure it's going to pass based on the comments from the Mayor Pro Tem. And, again, like I said earlier, we continue to just wait on these courageous conversations from the mayor, supposedly that he's going to strike a deal with Paula Wallace.
Well, listen, Estella Shabazz should be worrying about the fairgrounds project, which is non-existent and mired in ugly, potential criminal activity on the parts of the developers that she, advocated for and got the award for the contract to develop the fairgrounds. She's been in office. She's a poster child for term limits now, is what she is, Chuck. So she works for a developer, Vanguard Developers, who get $40 or $50 million of East-Splosh money to do school construction projects. I don't think she should be even voting on impact fees, in as much as it impacts the construction industry.
I don't know.
That's.
I just want to see a vote. Honestly, before we move on to the next one, I just want to see a vote. I want to see an up or down vote. I want to see a real impact fee program. I want to see where these council people are on it, and that'll guide the elections next year. It's that simple.
Fair enough.
Number 2, crime. All right,
put up that homicide list
let me let you read
powerful
my mind.
as it
Let me
is.
get to it. Let me get to it here. So, contrary to whatever, Mayor Van Johnson would have you believe, crime is up. It's up over the term of his term as mayor. It's gone up every year.
Every single year.
All right. The jump this year, admittedly, is not as dramatic as the previous 2 years, but it just means that we're sustaining a level of crime, not having an outrageous increase in it. We've had an outrageous increase the last 2 years, and I'm just gonna pull up.
And that's from Aaron Clarkson.
Yeah, let me. This is
Does
from
a
the
wonderful
Savannah
job of-
first timer. Hang on. This is just a map of shootings here. All right.
It looks like the STVR map. As a matter of fact,
does
all
look
those
like the
crimes seem to
STVR
overlay.
All right. Every one of these is not a confirmed death in a shooting, but it's a shooting, I think.
No, it's a gun involved crime.
Right. It's a gun involved
Armed robbery.
Right. So, but we had 31 murders, I think. I think it might be 33 or 34 now.
Well, as of that listing, which was a couple weeks ago, it was 30, I think. But
I think it's like 31 or 32 now. I think it's even higher. Right. Yeah. So crime is a serious issue.
Yeah, they can't run on crime is being managed and dealt with effectively.
I think this is probably Pastor. This administration is completely dysfunctional. The crime issue disqualifying on its face. The mayor really does not care.
Yeah, well, for another day and another show, Chuck, we ought to parse out those 30 or 31 murders by district, and I'll bet you anything, Linda's district is going to rival Curtis's district for the most gun-involved violent crime.
You mean like by increases? Because here's this map. Let me put Pastor's comment away here. Yeah, somebody says 36 murders so far this year in our Better Savannah membership group.
Okay.
This is again going back to the map here. I think
doesn't
there's
show
a
all.
couple of it doesn't show everything, but I think there's a
Yeah.
couple of things that stand out. It's the amount downtown.
Look at the third, for Christ's sake.
The amount on the east side, the amount on the lower west side here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the lower west side, this is what this is.
It's downtown in the 3rd district, and we can't see all of the 6th.
The west side on the 5th,
Yeah.
It's something that's really, really, really hard to explain away, given the amount of federal money that's been injected into this town in the last year or two.
It's not that hard. 25%
Facebook back and forth with the mayor and several of his supporters about what the actual poverty rate is here.
Yeah, and I concede that it's not 28%. So my apologies. That's old information.
Oh, it's 24. Oh, it's 23. It's double the national average. Instead of
national average is now 11%, and we're sitting at 22, 23, 24, depending on your source. In family or in households of color, it's 25.1%. And that's from Van's own task force.
Well, inflation's been 10% for the last year and a half. If it's 8-9% this next year, I wonder if that poverty number jumps up by 8 or 9% over the next year.
Obviously,
my thought.
Obviously, $1.2 billion of new construction has not transferred into public safety advances. Okay,
Another
are slowly rising, if at all. The women and minority participation in city contracts is probably no higher than it was when they took office. I mean, these guys have squandered their majority because they followed Van. I mean, these people had their own voices. We know, we worked with them. Nick, Linda, Dietrich, Curtis.
Well, speaking of Nick, let me put that map back up. If you were to inverse this map away from, gun crimes to
catalytic converters,
petty theft and catalytic converter thefts, it would be all right here in the middle in the 4th district, basically.
Yep.
It's not just the violent crime, it's the petty crime, that has increased a lot. That's something that was remarked to me by multiple political operatives in and out of town, that, just the sheer amount of catalytic converter thefts in that district would be alarming to anybody running.
This was, I think it's safe to say, and I think you would agree, Chuck, 3 years into this new council, this is not the transformational council that people envisioned. Okay. And at best, they can say, all we did was hold the fort. We didn't innovate much. We did a whole lot of PR, good work. We upped Nick Zoller's budget, and our video game has never been stronger. Our social media presence has never been stronger. But you know what? When it comes to taxes, when it comes to public safety, when it comes to just basic good policy, they don't have much.
All right, and the number one issue, the number one moment of the year, is very obvious to me, but the T-Splosh defeat.
Yeah. Well, if they're going to single-handedly take complete credit for a new police chief, I'm going to say we single-handedly defeated T-Splosh, which of course is not.
I mean, of course,
but if we did it their way, if we managed this the way they manage their news, you would think that Better Savannah single-handedly crushed the Chamber of Commerce and the $160,000 they spent on it. Well, we help.
You know,
We help.
once again, just thankful to my friends at the Savannah.
God bless them.
An opinion piece I published. Talk a little bit about the T-Splost. I'll be right back. Hang on.
Okay. T-SPOS was the transportation special purpose local option sales tax, and this was clumsily handled. This was self-defeating because the lists that they published for people to see the projects, virtually half of the revenue what wound up being an asterisk and a footnote saying subject to council's prerogatives for projects. Um, it basically a third of the money that the city was going to get was going to get disguised as canal district infrastructure needs, disguised as drainage. It was about as poorly presented as anything could be, and as you can see on the screen, unless you're listening to this as a podcast, um, you know, these wise, newly elected people, Nick Palumbo, Curtis Purty, Linda Wilder Bryant, all put their name behind it. And
Yes,
vouched
they
for it.
did. They put their face and name behind it. They sure did, John.
Yep. And the stunning thing is, and I'm probably stepping on where you wanted to go on this, Chuck, but while it's fresh in my mind,
Please go ahead.
The luminaries, Adam Van Bremer and Bill Dowers, tried to say that it was the unincorporated area that defeated T-Splost. And there's some truth to that. They always vote against sales tax referendums.
They voted a little bit more than normal this time. Sure.
Yeah. But the part that Dowers and Adam Van Bremer are loath to write about or report on is the fact that the precincts in the 1st and the 5th district, which are the highest concentration of poverty households and households of color, those boxes, those precincts dropped 10, 15, and 20% of their normal yes votes. They were still a majority yes, meaning, they went from 70% to 50%. So that's the real story of how T-Splost.
That's this story. Yeah, well, on the screen right now for those who listen to this, just from my op-ed in the Savannah about T-Splost, JEA, Ardsley Park, you had from 2019's special purpose sales tax referendum, you had a drop from 70 to 52, 70 to 52, 66 to 54. So like these monumental, changes, inside the city, even in, large black precincts like the West Side that normally carry these referendums home, they voted against it,
Yeah, and I wonder, I really think having their older people, Bernetta Lanier, their citywide representatives, Alicia Blakely Miller,
let me go back to the top.
Having them counter the do-nothings, the nutcases, and they came out and said, whoa, don't be fooled. This is a poorly planned sales tax referendum. You're going to be disappointed. Don't reward them. They don't deserve it. And sure enough, voters responded to their message. So win one for the good guys on the defeat of T-Splost.
I mean, I think I have been told from others, both supporters and just other kind of political players in the game, that this is the largest thing we've ever done. It's the biggest deal.
I would say so. And second to that would maybe be the 2019 election that saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of
Six,
those.
six of those faces,
7.
and 3 of them turncoated against us.
Yeah.
But notice who's missing from this photo.
Fucking Dietrich
Stella
Leggett.
and
He's
Dietrich.
smart.
Stella and Dietrich.
Dietrich's smart, man. He knew not to get mixed up in this one.
Well, what's that old quote? It's better to keep your mouth shut and have people wonder about you than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Right.
I think that sums up.
I got to hand it to Dietrich. Very wise move to stay out of this.
He's been frequently out of the fray. Besides the Van Johnson ridiculous travel schedule and the Quentin Simon case, I think another honorable mention for top 10 moment of the year, at least for us, has to be the election of Ann Allen Westbrook to House District 163.
She crushed it.
I'll just point out, 2 years ago in a 5-way race, and in a runoff, without a Better Savannah support, as we all know, Ann Westbrook lost
18.
a 19-vote margin race in the runoff against now soon to be sworn in state senator Derek Malo, with Better Savannah's endorsement this year. She got 63 and change percent of the vote. It was a landslide victory. So, shouts out to Ann. Looking forward to your legislative career starting. We've got a lot of battles ahead. I know that you were just talking to me before the show that we ought to start the year off with a top 10 things to watch. So, working on that now.
Yeah. I encourage our viewers and our followers, and by the way, Chuck, we're at 4,041 followers on Better Savannah. That's Instagram and Facebook unique followers. So, I'm not certain what we had 3 years ago when we started this, and
1,400 when we started in the first month, and then it grew.
Talk about growth. Our numbers, I guess people like what we're doing.
We always carry 15 to 30 people live, and then on a special live broadcast maybe 50 to 100.
At the end of the week,
then within 30 days probably 700 people view or listen to the podcast. Oh, here's Aaron, our friend, coming in on crime. This is a long comment. Let me read this out for
Please
everybody
do.
that's listening.
I love her.
There has been an increase in violent crime this year, though the number of homicides has remained relatively steady in recent years. But rape and aggravated assaults (parentheses with and without guns)
have increased.
end parentheses have increased. SPD's latest weekly crime report shows that violent crime has increased 11% over 2021. Also, you can use the plus and negative signs in the bottom left-hand corner of the crime map to zoom in on each area. That's on her website. Somebody connected to the police department here once told me that if these these kids, as they called them, could hit the broadside of a barn, there'd be 100 murders a year. But luckily, most of them don't know how to shoot very well.
Yeah, target acquisition is not their forte.
Well, I don't know, because I don't really, often too, what I've said is that murders have decreased nationwide simply because of like Uber, you could get an Uber in 30 seconds, and if you got your whole patch, that'd probably make it to the hospital in time. A lot of people survive the shootings much more. All of this is no solace, but I think what we want you to take away is that, crime has increased through a period of immense federal spending, not equal, but historically equitable, meaning through COVID, PPP money, the unemployment money, the stimulus checks, a lot of money flowed through this community. And while crime, decreased in many areas of the country, it did not decrease here, all while poverty did. So if we're going to go through this new cycle where federal money is drying up, economic conditions for those at the bottom are getting harder, where is crime going to be a year from now is the question I'm left with on that subject. So we had our 100th episode this year, another big moment. It was a live show in the beginning of October. Hard to believe that was 60 days ago or 80 days ago.
To go from 1,100 followers to over 4,000 in 3 years.
Yeah,
is I wish my portfolio produced like that.
Sure. Well,
so I think the things that people, we make mistakes. We sometimes prattle on longer than we should, but I think people have come to be able to expect a candid conversation with us that is intelligent, factual in nature, supported, reasoned, and well-intentioned. And I think, I appreciate those people because you and I both know how much work and effort we have to put in to make this thing happen. But we're now at a point where, we are an influencer, and in a district race, we used to maybe affect 2% outcome, 3. Now we're probably affecting 4 or 5% in a district
minimum,
race.
probably double digits.
Yeah.
So, it's based on the T-Splost results, based on the Allen Westbrook primary. I think, I've seen district boxes move a lot more than 5 or 6. But stick with us. 2023 is going to be a wild year.
Yeah.
I don't know how many episodes we'll hit, but we'll try to get as much content to you.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of fireworks. What are you going to say, John?
I just want to house cleaning here. I want to thank Jason Bible and the Trainwrecks for their generosity and support, the use of their music. Julius Hall and ATR Network and all the great programming that he's doing. Pastor Leonard Small and Unity Political Action Network. Betty Jones right up there, who's with us every single episode. And Aaron Clarkson, who just does a phenomenal job of keeping her fingers on what's really happening with public safety in the city of Savannah.
Rachel and Jim over at the Savannian.
Absolutely.
Also, thank them for letting us put their content and put some of our content on their platform.
Yep. And shout out
obviously, go ahead.
Eric Curl and the Savannah Agenda. It just knocks me out with the effort. He puts a lot of work into that thing, and I wish we could rope him into being a regular on Better Savannah. I know we've tried, but it's a new year. Maybe we'll try again.
Hey, that's a good resolution. Well, lastly, obviously not least, we have to thank you, the audience, the listener. I know that there's a lot of you who listen and don't comment, but share and send this to others. Please continue to do so. If you want to get more involved, you can join us at bettersavannah.org. We also have a private Facebook group that we're starting to grow this year. So, reach out to us, get involved. We need to raise some money to affect some outcomes in some races. And I'll post our Cash App in the comments. So
awesome.
Appreciate it, guys.
Good show, Chuck. Thanks
so much. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you in the new year. Happy New Year.
Growth is everywhere. New homes, the ports, tourism, and the Savannah College of Art and Design. Growth costs residents in higher property taxes, higher rents, and higher sales tax. Isn't it time for growth to pay its fair share?